In the frozen north, where gods once walked among men, a shadow was born. They called him a berserker, neither man nor beast, but something far more terrifying. His eyes glowed like molten gold beneath the moonlight, his rage unchained, unstoppable. When the battle drums thundered, he became a storm of blood and fury. Some said Odin himself cursed him, others whispered he was chosen. But behind every legend lies a truth, darker than steel, older than time. Tonight, we walk through that darkness. This is the untold story of the Berserkers, the warriors who fought without fear, without mercy, and whose rage could shake the gods themselves. The night Eirik Wolfborn was born, the sky was not sky at all, it was fire. The northern lights bled crimson above the mountains, and the seeress of Trondheim stood barefoot in the snow, her hands raised to the storm. She saw the omen before the child even drew breath. A wolf howled. The earth trembled. The gods were watching. They say she whispered a curse that night, or perhaps a prophecy. From rage shall he rise. From rage shall he fall. Years later, men would tell stories of Eirik, the one who howled in battle, the one who felt no pain, the one whose eyes turned glassy as ice when he fought. But before he became a name carved into stone, he was just a child who dreamed of the sea, who feared the same gods his mother prayed to. He grew among warriors, men who lived by axe and died by the wind. Every boy learned to fight, but Eirik fought differently. When he bled, he did not stop. When he was struck, something inside him awoke, something ancient and merciless. By 15, he could outmatch men twice his age. By 20, he no longer remembered what mercy felt like. The first time it happened, truly happened, was during the raid on Hafrsfjord. The sky cracked with lightning. Shields clashed. Eirik charged through the enemy line, screaming words no man could understand. He bit through a shield rim, crushed a skull with his bare hands. When it was over, even his own men stared at him in silence. They said his eyes were white. They said he had become a beast. He didn't remember, only the taste of blood, the ache in his chest, and the terrible stillness after the storm. They called him Wolfborn after that day, not out of honor, but fear. Some whispered that Odin had marked him, that the god of war had entered his body. Others thought he was cursed, touched by demons who fed on fury. Eirik didn't care. He only knew one thing. The rage made him unstoppable and utterly alone. Those who shared his path were no ordinary warriors. They were outcasts and legends, men who fought without armor, wearing only the pelts of beasts, bears, wolves, sometimes nothing at all. They fasted before battle, bit the edge of iron until their tongues bled, and sang chants to awaken the fury that slept in their bones. They called it a gift from the gods, but to the men who watched them fight, it looked like madness. Villages locked their gates when they saw these warriors march. Kings hired them for wars too bloody for honor. They were a weapon and a warning. Eirik fought for silver, but never kept it. He fought for glory, but found none, because every time the battle ended, the rage left him hollow. His hands shook. His heart stuttered. Sometimes he woke screaming in the night, certain he had killed someone he loved. The rage gave him strength. It also took pieces of him away. After one raid, when the fury lifted, he found his brother's body among the fallen. No weapon in his brother's hand. No enemy near. Only the mark of Eirik's axe. He dropped to his knees and tore at his own hair, screaming until his voice broke. From that day, he swore to understand the thing that lived inside him, or to die trying. He left his war band and wandered north, when no man ruled and no law could reach. There, among glaciers and endless night, he met a woman the sagas call Svala the Seer. Her eyes were the color of frozen rivers, her voice the sound of falling snow. She looked at him as if she had seen him in a dream long before he was born. "You carry the fire of the gods," she said, "but you do not yet know their hunger." Eirik's voice trembled. If it is the gods who curse me, then why do they not take me? Svala smiled a sad, knowing smile. The rage you fear is not a curse, she whispered. It is a bridge. Cross it, and you may see what mortals cannot. Then she turned and vanished into the mist, leaving him alone with her words echoing in his chest. From that night on, Eirik began to see his fury differently, not as punishment, but as a doorway. He did not yet understand what waited on the other side, but he knew one truth. The beast inside him was not born from hate, but from grief. A raven cried in the distance. Snow began to fall again, and beneath the pale moonlight, Eirik Wolfborn took his first step toward the edge of the world, where gods and monsters waited to test the soul of a man who could no longer tell the difference between the two. The sea was gray that morning, a vast mirror of ice and smoke stretching to the ends of the world. Eirik stood at the prow of his longship, wind tearing through his hair, eyes fixed on the horizon that refused to end. Around him, his warriors sang low and rough, their voices rising like the growl of a sleeping beast. They had been sailing for days, chasing a vision Eirik couldn't shake, the seer's words haunting him. Cross the bridge, and you may see what mortals cannot. He didn't understand what she meant, but his heart knew no peace until he tried. The rage within him had grown quieter, as if waiting, watching. He wasn't alone anymore. Among his men was Svala, the seeress who had returned with no explanation. She said nothing of fate or prophecy now. She simply watched the sea with unreadable eyes. To the warriors, she was a witch. To Eirik, she was the only one who didn't fear him. That night, when the fog rose thick and white, the sea itself seemed to whisper. The longship slowed. Eirik felt something stir inside him, a coldness, deep and old. The men gripped their weapons, for shapes were moving in the mist. Shadows of men, or something like them, marching across the waves. Dead men, one whispered. No, Svala said softly. Not dead. Not yet. Then came the sound, drums, faint and rhythmic, from somewhere below the water. The warriors looked at Eirik, fear in their eyes. He stepped forward, heart pounding. Hold your ground, he said. But even as he spoke, he felt a change, that creeping burn that started in his chest and spread through his limbs. His breath grew heavy. His vision sharpened. The beast was awakening. Suddenly, from the fog, arrows hissed. One struck a man through the throat, another buried in the mast. The sea exploded with motion as dark ships broke from the mist, raiders, rival Vikings from the east. Eirik roared, voice shaking the air. The battle began. Axes clashed. Shield shattered. Blood mixed with seawater. Eirik leapt from ship to ship, unstoppable, howling as the rage took him. His men fought beside him, inspired and terrified at once. The Berserker trance consumed him. His muscles burned with impossible strength. His pain vanished. He felt the heat of life and death collide. A warrior struck him with a spear. Eirik didn't even flinch. He caught the shaft, snapped it, and drove the splintered end into the man's throat. He turned to face another, and another. He didn't see faces anymore. Only movement. Only blood. When the battle ended, silence fell again. Only the creak of wood and the lapping of waves remained. Eirik stood alone among the dead. His body was painted in crimson, his breath shallow. The sea reflected his face, and in the reflection, for a heartbeat, he saw not a man, but a wolf. He fell to his knees. The rage drained away, leaving a hollow ache. Around him lay his brothers, his kin. None had survived. Svala appeared beside him, untouched by battle, her cloak dry though the storm raged. She looked at him with sadness, not fear. This is the price, she said. The gods give and they take. You wanted to see what mortals cannot. Now you have. Eirik's voice broke. What am I? Neither man nor beast, she answered. You are the border between them, and borders must always bleed. In the days that followed, they drifted. The ship carried only 2 souls now. The sea was endless, and silence was their only companion. Eirik spoke little. Sometimes he saw shapes in the water, wolves running beneath the waves, eyes glowing like coals. Svala told him stories as they sailed. Tales of Odin's warriors who drank the blood of bears to awaken their fury, of secret rites in the forests where men tore their flesh to call the spirit of the beast. She said the Berserkers were not merely men. They were chosen, vessels for divine madness. But Eirik began to see a darker truth. The gods did not choose men for their strength, they chose them for their pain. Every Berserker carried a wound, something broken inside them that the fury could fill. And the more he thought of it, the more he realized his rage had not begun in war. It began the day his brother died. They reached land at last, a desolate shore beneath black cliffs. Smoke rose from distant fires. Eirik felt the pull of fate once more. "This place," Svala whispered, "is older than our stories. The first Berserkers were born here." She led him inland, through twisted forests and frozen rivers, until they came upon a circle of standing stones. The air was heavy, the ground littered with bones. In the center, a stone altar stained dark with time. Svala knelt. "Here, they gave themselves to the beast," she said, "and the beast gave them victory." Eirik looked at the altar. He could almost hear the echoes, chanting voices, the clash of axes, the roar of men surrendering their souls. He felt the rage stir again, like a heart beneath his own. Svala rose and placed her hand on his chest. "You have carried this curse long enough. If you would master it, you must face it. Drink from the fire, or let it consume you." Eirik's breath trembled. "And if I die, then you die as what you truly are." The night fell fast. The fire was lit. The ancient ritual began. He stood alone in the circle, wind howling around him, firelight dancing on the stones. The smell of blood and smoke filled the air. Eirik closed his eyes and let the fury come. It tore through him like a storm, memories, grief, rage, and love, all at once. He saw his brother's face. He saw the seer's eyes. He saw himself, small and broken, standing before the gods. Then he screamed, not in pain, but in defiance. The flames leapt higher, wrapping him in their embrace. For heartbeat, he saw shapes in the fire, bears, wolves, ravens, circling him, howling. And then silence. When the fire died, Eirik still stood, his skin marked with soot, his eyes glowing faintly, his breath calm. The beast within him had not vanished, but for the first time it obeyed. Svala watched from the shadows and nodded. "Now you understand," she whispered. "The fury was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you." But before dawn came, distant horns sounded, a war band approaching. The past was not done with Eirik Wolfborn yet. The horns echoed across the cliffs, deep, resonant, ancient. Eirik knew that sound. It was the call of men who came not to raid, but to hunt. The war band belonged to King Sigvald of the North, ruler who feared only one thing, the rise of warriors he could not control. They had come for him. The morning mist burned away as 50 longships approached the shore. Shields gleamed. Sails snapped. The king's banner, a golden serpent, rippled in the wind. Eirik stood on the black sand, axe in hand, firelight still flickering behind his eyes. Beside him, Svala waited silently, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "You could run," she said. "I've run all my life," Eirik replied. "No more." The ships landed with a crash. Warriors poured out, iron and leather gleaming with salt and blood. Sigvald himself stepped forward, tall, proud, wearing a wolf pelt as mockery. His voice carried like thunder. "Eirik Wolfborn," he called. "I warned you once. There's room for only one beast in the north. Surrender, or I'll feed your heart to the crows." Eirik's fingers tightened on the axe haft. He said nothing. The wind answered for him, carrying the scent of snow and blood. Svala touched his arm. "If you lose control now," she whispered, "you'll destroy everything you've become." He nodded, but inside, the storm was already rising. The battle began before the words could finish echoing. Steel met flesh. Shields splintered. The world became sound and motion, war as the gods had meant it to be. Eirik moved like the sea in a storm, his axe carving arcs of death through the tide of men. He could feel the rage pressing at the edges of his soul, begging to be unleashed. And then a spear struck Svala. She fell without a cry, her white cloak folding like snow. Time stopped. Eirik's heart went cold. He turned, saw her blood on the black sand, and the beast inside him roared awake. He didn't remember what happened next. The rage took everything. He became sound, fury, and movement, a storm given flesh. Men fell before him like wheat to the scythe. He broke shields with his hands, shattered skulls with his head. When his axe split, he tore through his enemies with their own weapons. No pain, no mercy, no thought. Only the endless howl of the Berserker. By the time silence fell, the beach was red. The waves carried the bodies of the slain out to sea. Eirik stood alone again, chest heaving, hands shaking. The beast was gone, spent, and beside him, Svala lay still, her eyes open to the dawn. He dropped to his knees. The axe fell from his hands. "You said the rage was a bridge," he whispered. "But every time I cross it, I lose everything." The wind shifted. The fire burned low. Then, softly, he heard her voice, not in his ears, but within his mind. "You have not lost, Eirik. You have seen." Her body dissolved into light, a shimmer of snow rising toward the sky. He reached for her, but she was gone. Only the echo of her words remained. The Berserker fell to the sand, weeping like a man, not a monster. When he rose, he looked out across the sea. The horizon glowed red with the rising sun, or perhaps the memory of fire. He understood now what the seer had meant. The rage was not meant to serve the gods. It was meant to free men from fear, to show them the strength hidden in their pain. He built a cairn for Svala with his bare hands. No runes, no prayers, only silence. Then he turned away from the sea for the last time. In the years that followed, men spoke of a wanderer who lived in the mountains, a scarred giant who walked with wolves and never aged. They said he no longer fought, but when danger came, his eyes still burned with the light of ancient fire. Some called him mad, others called him blessed, but all feared the name Eirik Wolfborn. And so his legend grew, told by firesides, sung in mead halls, carried by travelers across the icy lands. Children would whisper that when a storm howled through the fjords, it's Eirik's spirit, warning warriors of the path between man and beast. For the Berserker's truth was not strength, but sorrow, not glory, but the price of becoming something the world could never understand. Even now, scholars argue, were the Berserkers real? Did they truly fight without pain, without armor, without fear? Were they gods chosen, or victims of madness, trapped between worlds? But in the quiet corners of the north, when the wind rises and wolves cry under the moon, the people still say they were real, and one of them still walks among the mountains. The fire fades, the legend lingers, and the beast sleeps waiting. The saga of Eirik Wolfborn reminds us of the fine line between power and destruction, between man and the monster within. The Vikings saw rage not as weakness, but as truth, the raw, unfiltered strength of the soul. So tell us, what do you believe? Were the Berserkers chosen by gods, or haunted by their own demons? If this legend of blood and fire stirred something in you, strike the like button like a warrior's axe, share it with your clan, and subscribe for more untold sagas from the Viking Age. Because every story, every scar, and every howl in the dark still carries the spirit of the North.